Hey everybody, Stinger here with a special message, a special thank you to the best Italian wrestling podcast. That's right, the best Italian wrestling podcast called Pro Wrestling Culture. Specifically, thank you to Aldo Fiadoni. All right, Aldo, awesome job, man. I guess you and I met in New York in 2019. And there were some tears shed there. Man, I love that. I love that. You know what? Real men can cry, bro. Let me tell you something. Man, means a lot that you watch. Means a lot that this podcast is happening and the pro wrestling culture appreciates Aldo Fiadoni. So be watching there. It's going to be showtime. And tune in to the podcast, Pro Wrestling Culture, because it's always showtime there from the Stinger.
Questo programma non è soggetto a infezioni. It's showtime.
Okay, welcome ladies and gentlemen in a new brand episode of Pro Wrestling Culture. Here with us the real Messiah and the Professor Matteo Pagliarella. Hi guys.
Hi Aldo and welcome to our special guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, the owner of Progress Wrestling, Lee McAteer.
Gentlemen, thank you very, very much for having me. Aldo, Matteo, it's a real privilege to be on the show. So thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, Lee.
You're welcome.
Welcome to Pro Wrestling Culture.
Welcome to PWC.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. First question by me. After Gene Smallman, Glenn Joseph, and John Briley for the first decade, you are one of the owners of Progress Wrestling. So what do you feel about that?
Feel it as in being the new owner?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I feel very humbled, very honoured to be able to take Progress into the next decade. There's a lot of pressure, of course, in terms of what we're trying to achieve and, dare I say it, take Progress to another level. We've got big global aspirations for the brand, not just from a UK perspective. And you've probably seen that already with the fact that we've been in Dubai. We've just announced our return to North America for the first time since 2019. But first and foremost, what I had to do was I had to bring Progress back into the light after a very difficult period. We all know what happened in the pandemic. And now that we've brought Progress back for a good while now, it's now about really trying to put a mark on what Progress Wrestling now means into a new evolution of the brand.
Evolution of the brand. In fact, Progress is probably the greatest company in all of United Kingdom, in my opinion, and one of the greatest in Europe. So in the last 10 years, I saw many matches during the various chapters. And most importantly, I saw stories and great storytelling. Matteo will talk about it during his questions after that. But what is the next step for the company?
Well, I mean, it's a very, very good question. I mean, first and foremost, what was Progress about? It was about fantastic storytelling. And for me, that will always be in terms of creative wise, the most important aspect of what Progress is, it's about the fact that we want you to be invested into the characters, invest into the storyline, invest into the talent, to the point that you excuse my language, but give a shit basically, because
Don't worry. So sorry, Lee, but I think Will Ospreay against Jimmy Havoc was the top of the stories in Progress.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that what Will and Jimmy did in that particular match and storyline was obviously spoken about by many people for a long extended period of time. But now we're into a literal new chapter with new talent. So it's trying to combine some of the nostalgic aspects of the fact that, for example, we've got Will Ospreay back for Super Strong Style 16, but then you've got some unbelievable new talent in the forms of the likes of Tate Mayfairs, Charles Crowley, Leon Slater, Luke Jacobs, the guys from CPF. And I could go on and on and on. There's some fantastic young talent that are coming through the ranks. And of course, they all want to be in that top spot. That top spot is currently held by Spike Trivet. The question is, how long will he be there for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And about the Super Strong Style, next week is the right time for a new edition of this tournament, one of the greatest tournaments in European wrestling, because we have the 16 karat gold in WXW, but we have the Super Strong Style 16 in Progress Wrestling. This tournament is behind the corner with a massive and spectacular list of talents. Former champions like Nathan Cruz, the first champion in Progress Wrestling, Will Ospreay, former Ring of Honor and TNA.
Mark Haskins.
Yes, Mark Haskins. Sorry, Mark Haskins.
The winner of the Karat, Shigeru Irie.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So, what do you expect from this edition of the tournament? Because I think with these names will be an awesome edition of Super Strong Style.
Well, for me, what I think this tournament is about is it combines the new talent with the nostalgic aspects of what Progress was with what Progress now is. And then if you combine all of that with a sprinkling of the likes of Nick Wayne, who's the current Defy champion, and in a few years' time, everybody would be looking back and going, my gosh, I was there when I saw Nick Wayne at Progress. No different to what they now think of when they see Walter or Gunter or Pete Dunne or MJF or Adam Cole or Tommaso Ciampa, and the list goes on and on and on. The reality is this is going to be one of those tournaments where people will look back and go, I was there, because the level of the talent, for me, it's the best of British with a sprinkling of some of the very, very best imports that are out there. You've got the likes of Big Damo on the card. You've got returning Rampage Brown, Charles Crowley, who's truly spectacular, Leon Slater, who for his age is probably on the Mount Rushmore alongside of Nick Wayne for young talent in the world right now. Then you can add the likes of Charles Crowley to that. You can add the likes of Tate Mayfairs. It really, really is a phenomenal tournament for what is going to be, I think, a tournament that's going to be spoken about for many, many years to come.
And you will also have a very interesting women's wrestling match during in the second night.
Yeah, well, we've actually got two. We've got Alexis Falcon taking on Nina Samuels. That's been an unbelievable feud in a match when that literally is a Progress only match where the stipulation will change as you then start to watch the match itself. And then of course you've got the Progress Women's Champion Lana Austin taking on Millie McKenzie for the championship. So it's really important. Women's wrestling is incredibly important to Progress. Normally we would have a lot more women on the card, but with Super Strong Style 16, its heritage, it's always been a male-focused tournament. But that's also one of the reasons why it's really important for us to be able to showcase what our incredible women on our roster can do at the same time.
About the women's wrestling, you gave the first big opportunity to stars like Jordan Grace and Giselle Shaw. They are now a part of Impact Wrestling roster.
Yeah, very much so. Jordan's absolutely incredible talent, and has gone on to do some incredible things in bodybuilding as well. Giselle, what a story that she is and still is writing about herself. I used to really, when Giselle was because this time last year for Super Strong Style 16, she was our champion. She took on Kanji, and getting to know Giselle was a real privilege and a real honor. And to see the amazing things that she's going on to do, it doesn't surprise me at all. She is somebody that many people from all around the world are looking to as a total inspiration. And truthfully, I'm just thankful to call her a friend, never mind the fact that she was a former Progress champ.
Yeah. Matteo?
Okay. So I want to talk about a very important feud that has been in the last month and in the last year between Spike Tree, the current Progress champion, and Cara Noir. Could you tell more about this feud and your feeling about this feud?
Well, the question I keep getting asked at the moment, Matteo, is this the end of that feud? And the difficulty at the moment is that they came to the ballroom completely sold out, and it was the first ever steel cage match in Progress history, which is something to be said for the accumulation of what, in my opinion, is the best feud in Progress history. With that said, Cara got injured very early on in that match. I don't know how he actually got through the match, truthfully. I'm sure you won't mind me saying this, but he's got 3 fractures in his foot and carried on within that match. And the brutality that Spike Trevay continued to show against Cara Noir really kind of demonstrates why he is seen as the most hated man in all of European wrestling, full stop. And I don't think for one, I really do not believe that this is the end of their chapter. Whether or not Spike Trevay will still be the men's Progress world champion at that particular point when Cara Noir comes back around is a whole different question, because he's got a lot of people that are going to be gunning for him, especially from whoever wins Super Strong Style 16. But the feud between Spike and Cara is something that we were really truly humbled to watch, and the promos and everything else that was going out in and around it. And of course, I'm biased. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't. But when it came to the storytelling aspects of what those two gentlemen did and the promos in and around it, I honestly think that you could put that in any major promotion that's on a global level, whether that's WWE or AEW or Impact, and people would say that is just as good a level as anything else you're going to see elsewhere. But from a personal perspective, seeing Cara laid out in the ring with all the paramedics around him after the match had finished, I care about Cara Noir a lot, and to see him in such a bad state was very, very difficult. But I have absolutely no doubt that he's going to come back stronger than ever, more determined than ever. I spoke to him the other day, and it was, I can see how determined he is. He wants retribution, and Progress Wrestling means so much to him. The Progress World Championship means so much to him, especially as he carried it through what I would argue to be the darker stage of Progress, and especially through the pandemic. But where does this leave Spike Trevay? That's the real question. We were at the For Love of Wrestling in Manchester, and Adam Cole is in the ring.
Yeah, for the love of wrestling.
He's literally calling out Spike Trevay. He comes over to where Progress is, sees what was the old Progress World Championship belt, takes a photo with it, and he's like, "This is one of the most beautiful belts. It's something that I really want to have in my
Yeah.
And legitimately, and this is not just me saying it for any other reason. Spike Trevay was in Manchester having a few drinks, and he saw this on his social media, and he was supposed to get a train to London. He was that angry and pissed off about it because he had the new World Championship, which was actually used on the Chapter 152 in Manchester the night before. He was so angry and pissed off about it he legitimately came back to the convention to confront Adam Cole. Legit. So you can see how important this championship is to Spike. And we've all seen that he will do absolutely anything that he needs to do in order to be able to retain it. And whether that's with Bullet, whether that's with his new faction, he does not want to let go of that championship. And right now, regardless of who wins Super Strong Style 16, the mountain they're going to have to climb to try and take that off him is something that's going to be one of the most difficult things to do in all of Progress's history.
Yeah, definitely.
And this pace that could be a return for Adam Cole in Progress, because he wrestled there against Mark Haskins years ago during probably the first 2 years of the company.
Yeah, I mean, Adam loves Progress, but very much so, and the fact he was back in the Progress ring, from speaking to him afterwards, it's because all the interviews were taking place in Progress, and it's funny because then you also have the likes of Booker T, who was basically saying that he wants to come to Progress and everything else, and all this stuff is organic. We're not asking these guys to say anything. This is all legit and real. So to have such incredible superstars want to be involved with our brand, I think is testament to where we are currently and what we're trying to do in the future.
Sorry, Matteo, I have another question.
Don't worry, Aldo.
Can we say Cara Noir probably is one of the most underrated stars in wrestling business? Because I think his character, his entrance, that could be a WrestleMania moment in an arena or stadium, in a bigger stadium. Is spectacular.
He is. I mean, I wouldn't say he's necessarily underrated. I would just say that he's perhaps not as known on a more global basis as some of the other stars that are out there. But for those that are investing to Progress, for me, when you think of Progress Wrestling, you think of Cara Noir. But it's also one of the reasons why we've got such global aspirations in terms of showing everybody what Progress is all about. Hence why we're going back to North America. We're hoping to do some shows in the USA later on this year, potentially Australia as well at a later point. So hopefully people will then see even more so as to what Cara Noir's already about, because he's an unbelievable talent, and I certainly wouldn't want to go against him, put it that way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, Aldo, it's my round. It's my time. Okay. Lee, a very simple question. Is the electric barroom so electric, or really electric?
It's unbelievably electric, especially when Progress is in town. Absolutely, no doubt. And I think everybody saw that firsthand when we had the most amount of people at a Progress show at the Electric Ballroom since our records showed anyway. I think it was back to 2016. So the atmosphere that was in there was truly scintillating, and dare I say it was electric. It literally lived up to its name.
Yeah, definitely. Another question is going to be on the weekend at the end of August, because we're going to have a very interesting collaboration with Defy and the Progress Wrestling for a very important show in Saturday 26th.
Yeah, so it's on Saturday, and we've got a joint show with Defy. Starts at 12 o'clock, so it's going to be very much action packed, and we've got some really cool things lined up. And it's going to be a celebration of wrestling, obviously with AEW. The next day, we've got Nick Wayne that's obviously appearing. By that particular point, he's going to be a fully fledged AEW star, because as soon as he's 18, he'll be going straight on to AEW programming. So it's going to be an unbelievable day of an unbelievable weekend of wrestling. And obviously, we've announced that Davey Boy Smith Jr. is going to be making his debut as well. And just from the fact that there's so many feelings about the fact that what his father did with Bret the Hitman Hart over 31 years ago. So the fact that they're going back to wrestling is going to be back at Wembley, full stop. I think for him to be in and amongst all of that is going to be a really, truly special occasion for him.
Why not the special occasion for Spike 3 versus Adam Cole?
Well, you never know. You never know. You never know what's going to be around the corner, Matteo. That's the thing, dear. You know, that's why we all tune in to see what happen next. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're very blessed in the fact that we've got a really good relationship with the likes of WWE, the likes of AEW, the likes of Impact. You know, we've got a lot of stuff that's happening behind the scenes, and hopefully it will be of the benefit to the fans and, of course, the talent as well. You know, my big thing, whilst this might not be the coolest thing to talk about, my big thing, especially when I came into this world, was I wanted to make sure that the talent were looked after properly. And that's one of the things that we're most proud about at Progress, is to how we look after the talent on show days. Because for me, it was really important to have the standard of what we have in football at exactly what we have in wrestling. And that's one of the things that is really important. So for us to build relationships with other organizations, those organizations have also got to be of the same mindset in terms of looking after the welfare of all the talent. And that's the reason why we've teamed up with Defy, WXW, you know, amongst other companies, purely because there's a certain way to do things and a certain way not to do things. And, you know, at Progress, we do things properly.
Yes, I think the collaboration between the wrestling reality is the most important thing in to grow this movement.
Yeah, improve the movement.
Yeah. So I think it's more important. Lee, I have the last question that is called the biggest question of this podcast. The domandone. And during your last year as owner of the Progress Wrestling, did happen something strange stuff or cooling stuff in or extra ring? I don't know, like wrestler that are going to have a booking and they cancel at the last moment, or
yeah, I mean, the thing is that, you know, injuries happen.
Okay.
Circumstances happen and change. We actually had a very well-known WWE superstar that was actually in the back of Progress for a show that we thought was going to be on one of the shows, and then one thing led to another and it didn't happen. So sometimes you've got to plan for things that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but you've got to be able to have enough flexibility to work in the current circumstances that you have. You know, we had one situation which I don't mind, you know, talking about on Chapter 127, which was the first show that we had as owners. Axel Tischer was diagnosed with COVID on the day because we were giving COVID tests to everybody, and we were very stringent in terms of what exactly we were doing to look after the talent and the welfare of the fans and everything else in between. And even though Axel was there, he was diagnosed with COVID, so we still, you know, sorted him out, but we respectfully said, look, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to put you on the show. And then, of course, it's like, well, who's going to step up and replace Axel? Which, let's be frank about, nobody can replace Axel Tischer because of how good he is. But the question is, if someone's got to take that spot, who would it be? And at that particular day, I was with Jay Apter, who's the owner of TNT Extreme Wrestling based out of Liverpool. And he said to me, throw Tate Mayfair's in there. Give him a chance. Give him a shot. And not only did Tate take that opportunity with both hands, but if you look at the journey that Tate Mayfair's has been on since Chapter 127, you know, people are now talking about him being the favorite to win Super Strong Style 16, which is unbelievable. And the fact that he's calling out openly Will Ospreay and going into Will's face and his social media by basically saying Ospreay fears Mayfair's. That is some serious cojones, gentlemen, isn't it? Let's be frank about it. You know, that's an amazing journey where someone has been there at the right time, at the right place, taking an opportunity And now Tate Mayfair's, in my opinion, is one of the greatest young wrestlers in the in the entire world. He really, really is. When you've got Nigel McGuinness openly saying that Tateness is greatness, that tells you a lot.
Is the wrestle to watch?
He is without doubt one of the wrestlers to watch. I mean, Leon Slater would be another one. Charles Crowley would be another one. The CPF boys. And I'm sure we're missing out some people there as well. But we're very blessed to have some fantastic young talent that are coming through, and that's what Progress was all about. It was about making that next generation of stars, and I feel as though we're in the process of doing that. Is Progress? Does Progress still have a little way to go to get back to certain points where we can go back to Wembley Arena or Ali Pali? Yes, it does, but we're definitely getting there. But again, it's about building the new stars. It's about building the storylines. It's not just about having great matches. It has to be so much more at Progress. And it's almost a given that you're a great talent and you're a great wrestler. But my question is, can you be a great storyteller within all of that? And I think it's a really exciting time to be part of Progress as we transition. Of course, we're no longer with WWE on the network. And we're working behind the scenes to see exactly what Progress is going to look like from a TV perspective behind the scenes at the moment. But I think that would probably be my best example. Would have been Tate and Axel in that regard. Sometimes we've had situations like we had one situation where Swerve Strickland was due to come over. Then his plane was literally just didn't leave the tarmac for like 4.5 hours. And then he missed his connecting flight and he wouldn't have got into Progress until about an hour after the show had finished. So sometimes you have to work in and around stuff to try and make sure that those situations don't happen. Because, of course, when you're saying to the fans that certain talents are going to be on the roster for that particular show, whilst the card is always subject to change, the last thing you want to do is let anybody down. So that's where it does become a bit more difficult and where you've got to pivot.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Messiah, do you have other question or we end?
I want to say Progress is probably the real progression of wrestling, and that catchphrase is one of the title that I had in one of my articles in the website that I wrote years ago. So Lee, thank you very much for this opportunity. Sincerely, thank you, and I hope everything will be fine and awesome during the Super Strong Style 16.
No, thank you very much, Messiah. Thank you, Matteo. It's a real privilege to be on PWC. Thank you so much for your interest in Progress, and I can't wait to see you guys in person. And it's going to be a phenomenal Super Strong Style 16. So thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
See you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matteo. Bye.